Scott Jones.
And I'm Bill Bohr.
Bill, how are you, sir? How is
I'm well. Are you better than you were last night when we talked?
yeah, I'm not as moody. I was moody.
No, you weren't moody. You were angry.
I was angry. I was
Right.
downright angry. I was a little upset. And so you decided that we would call this episode the airing of the grievances. Remember that from Seinfeld?
Oh yeah, that was where it came from. And we're about halfway to Festivus anyway, and
We're getting there.
And our vacation Bible school theme this week is Christmas in December. So I think it's fitting.
You're gonna kill you. You're gonna work yourself into an early grade vacation, Bob.
Christmas in
you should
January.
not be doing that. You should not.
Well, I will have to say that about 11:30 this morning, I would have agreed with you. I've been up to my ears with it, but we have a great team. Church looks fantastic. We have right now. I think we have people from 6 different churches coming together for this event. So that alone is good.
6 different churches. This is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is very cooperative. Great bunch. So that's worth the price of. That's worth the cost. So it got some great high school kids we're doing some skits and stuff. So it's worth it. But I do understand your concern, and the goal is after I get through this July, I'm going to reassess my my programming strategies up here. I might need to back off a little bit.
There you go. That's music to my ears. A little less activity is what I like in general.
Hey, one thing.
No, Bill. I last night I called you. I was at a party and I called you. I was frustrated. I'm so tired of this. Gets to the bullshit episode. It's really a continuation of our previous episode.
Right.
So we have the big beautiful bill passed. So it was signing on the 4th of July
with a flyover.
With a flyover.
The military B2s, flyover. Right? I don't know what it was. I was not watching.
Those are the things that.
And by the way, what does that cost every time I do that?
It's not cheap. I wouldn't.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap. Yeah, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars at least. Yeah. Anyway,
I would think it's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. That's not what it costs for us to air this broadcast.
It's not.
Not even.
Did you know that one of the things that was included in the bill, unless the House got out, was moving one of the space shuttles from the Smithsonian to Houston? That will cost maybe $100 million to do, and we no longer have the equipment to do it properly. So, anyway,
I heard that the Hezgeth, the bomber that dropped the bombs on Iran was not the Enola Gay, it was the Enola Strait.
He's renamed it.
It's the Enola Strait. And
by the way,
nothing gay.
All right, so and also we have to maybe think of I sent you a wonderful quote we in honor of the 4th of July, we have a new person to add to our Great American list.
The Great Americans, Bill's running list. There's going to be a wax museum.
And I think it is
Vermont.
Is she the senior senator from Alaska?
Yeah, because she came in.
Yeah,
I think she's the senior senator, right?
Well, the other person never does anything. We don't know who the other senator from Alaska is. Yeah, she really stepped up. She stepped up to the plate. So,
I will tell you. If I were doing a Bible translation today, and like a version of the Message, a paraphrase, instead of 30 pieces of silver, I'd have $6 billion for Alaska. I mean, the stuff she got, right? That she just it was just a pork. It was it's like a mob movie that you walk in the office, say, oh, hey, there's a suitcase there. You should open that up. Oh, it's $6 million.
It's the way they used to do it, right? Used to be Speaker of the House just kept a desk full of cash and say, hey, I hear you're going to have a tough election. Here's a little money towards that. Remember us when we have to vote on appropriations or whatever. No, I sent you one of my favorite memes was her being quoted.
Anne Frank.
I feel kind of bad that I turned Anne Frank in, but I'm sure the Nazis will be good.
I hope they treat her. Turning Anne Frank in was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I really hope the Nazis treat her well. Yeah, it's a real profiling courage. Well, they were
Yeah.
saying she and Susan Collins, like they were both holding out to see which one didn't have to vote for it because
Oh,
neither of them wanted to vote for it. So they're both again but another Susan Collins. She could be another one of your great Americans. I mean, they were
right.
really
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
profiles and courage, Bill.
Right. Right. A credit to their gender.
So let me tell you what I think is the biggest piece of bullshit, and I mean this in the technical term
Yeah.
well, this may be just a lie. I don't know. This is this lying or bullshitting? But this notion that I was listening to the commentary podcast, which is a center right podcast, which is very intellectually rigorous generally, but they were saying that there was these this is a new term now. Okay. This is so absurd. Okay. This is so absurd that this is in public discourse, but this is in public discourse now. There's a term Medicaid kings. And this is playing off Reagan's famous, of
Right.
course,
Welfare.
the welfare queens, right? These people that are
Equally,
driving these-
an equally racist statement.
yeah,
but,
of course. This is racist and mythical, right? I mean, there's people
mythical, right.
this imagining that there's these people that are getting rich off welfare and driving Cadillacs and in fur coats and running around Detroit, and they're just living the good life off federal dollars.
Right.
So now the term Medicaid kings, it's this idea that these are men that are able-bodied instead of the welfare queens. They're able-bodied males who are basically milking the system and scamming the system of largely fleecing the public trust and the public dollar by being on Medicaid. Now, this is the dumbest and least. How can you scam Medicaid? There's no direct payments. And what are you going?
Right.
Oh man, I'm going to get another knee replacement on the government. Yeah, I'm going to get this fake knee taken out. Get one more.
And I know because of knowing several people work in the industry, the federal government, the federal and state governments spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, if not into the billions. I'm sure it's into the billions a year to independent contractors who taxpayer money is given to them in order to monitor fraud. So there is more monitoring of fraud in this area probably than certainly. Well, I think all the watchdogs are gone, but if I mean, the amount of my guess is there's more waste in a week in the defense spending just because of the size of the budget than a year in Medicare.
But this is where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, right, in the system. It's a lot of the waste is trying to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. It is so. I mean, looking for things, right? That is
right. It's
that's
technically. Yes, medical dollars being all right. Let's say there's a pot of money. How much money goes to healthcare in the country? The majority of that money, doctors don't see it. It certainly doesn't translate into patients. It certainly doesn't translate into paying nurses. It goes to these all these different places, right? That are actually, you're right. I think that the waste is in the monitoring or in the pursuit of the waste. Yeah,
I know exactly. No, absolutely, it is. I mean, this is where you have the waste, fraud, and abuse in this, and this. No, it's funny because where the real, the limited, and I'm sure there is. No, look, I'm not denying, right, that I'm not denying that in some instances, people that make more than the threshold probably lie about their income and get Medicaid. I'm sure that happens.
Oh,
right?
that happens all the I know, but
Sure.
that stuff happens all the time, partially because it's hard to live on, it's hard to live on those
Right. So
levels.
is somebody working full time at Walmart, maybe, or something, who is above the threshold, or working two jobs and can't afford health insurance, or maybe they falsifying their income. Sure, I'm sure that happens. I'm sure it's not a massive expense. But the waste, fraud, and abuse happens on the side, not on the enforcement, but on the other side, is from providers. It's false billing. It's overbilling. It's people scamming the system, not the patients, the providers. Which you don't hear. It's the same thing that just infuriates me. About the immigration argument. Okay, we could stop illegal immigration tomorrow. Okay, it's a supply and demand thing. Just say anybody caught hiring an undocumented person will do 7 years minimum in prison and will take all their assets. Their business will be confiscated by the government. Make it so draconian and so fearful that no one, people just wouldn't do it because It's too high risk. Guess what, Bill? They're not good. You know what's surprising? There's no immigration problem in Afghanistan. Why? There's no jobs. Make it so there's no jobs, okay? But we don't do that. What we do is we incentivize the immigrants, right?
Right.
We say we need them. And look, the prices, if we got rid of undocumented, people would freak out at Target, be worse than the LA riots. People would
Well,
be burning down Walmart.
well, you're already there's fields that are being unharvested. You're going to see it in food prices.
Oh yeah, the strawberries and all these things. So this is just insane.
Strawberry, by the way, strawberries are $9 a quart up here.
Oh,
That's expensive.
no
It's,
strawberry shortcake for Bill.
no, actually,
yeah.
I made other sacrifices.
Yeah, but this is so what we do is blame the victim, right? We incentivize them to come,
We incentivize them to come.
and then round them, and you can do what Trump's doing. You can round them up incessantly because new ones will come tomorrow.
Well, yeah,
right?
well, the other thing that's interesting is I read that the Trump White House is quietly figuring out how can they backtrack a little bit because of all the job shortages.
Right, of course. And prices. Remember when the CEOs all told Trump with the tariff, all this stuff, the tariffs, the immigrant, we're going to round up all the. It all sounds good until you think about it. Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
even really sound that good before you think about it. But then after you think about it sounds a lot worse.
Yeah, I do. I think also the immigrant thing just it's leaning into the worst things about us. I mean, you see the kind of things that people post, alligator Alcatraz, which really should be alligator Auschwitz in many ways. I mean, I think these are concentration camps we're building with taxpayer money, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's just so all this. So
And by the way, we're going to hire more people who couldn't get into the FBI or the state troopers, the people who couldn't get into real law enforcement. We got more money now to hire them.
Oh, it went didn't
as
it go
ICE
from
agents.
7 billion to 85 or something?
Yeah, so we're going to have more hooded law enforcement out there, unmarked cars, totally. I mean,
nothing says the land of liberty like hooded law enforcement agents on urban streets.
Matter of fact, you could actually. It would be it might be an interesting exercise. All you folks up there who think this is wonderful, who've never read the Declaration of Independence, which in many ways is a
which, according to our president, it is a symbol of tremendous unity and love.
About love. Yeah,
it's all about love.
Yeah, not so much for George III. And what's interesting, I mean, most of what Jefferson writes there is fiction.
Yeah, and that was the edited version, right? I mean, it was. So they toned it down.
You have one of the greatest opening lines in that Enlightenment thought produces, and then you have a list of grievances that are all fictions.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, they toned that down. Jefferson's original list of fictions was worse.
Yeah. So the airing of false. Well, in some ways, at least Jefferson had read a book. But isn't so much of this whole MAGA movement just a bunch of grievances? It's an implication of grievance, which is hilarious. By the way, a few of our I don't know if they listen anymore or not, but a few of our friends who should absolutely know better, saying things like Democrats hate America, liberals, are just.
I have a quote that one of our friends sent me. Okay, this is.
Well, I'm not sure he's my friend, but go ahead.
So this is he's quoting Noah Rothman here, right?
Yeah, which all right.
Which I like Noah Rothman.
Noah Rothman in small doses is fine.
He's a smart guy. He wrote for like one of the shock jocks, or he was a producer for one of the shock jocks.
Yeah, well, of course
this is like Rush Limbaugh. I remember Howard Stern would play Rush Limbaugh as a failed Pittsburgh DJ. All right, everybody, a top 40 DJ. And he's like, why is this guy telling us like what to do about healthcare? Like, he's like, I mean, it was just terrible. He was like a terrible Pittsburgh, like small market, yeah. So Rothman, so our friend says, quotes Rothman about the left. Because I was making a point in it to some friends that I think that America is both, and this is the commentary guys were saying this, and I actually agree with them, that America is both creed and culture, right? That there's a cultural reality and a creedal reality. It's interesting because Rabbi Sachs, Lord Jonathan Rabbi Sachs, late Rabbi Sachs, right, said once that you Americans, you have to read the monuments. You don't have monuments with all this all these texts in England. You just have monuments, but here you
Right.
because we
Read.
do have a creedal identity, right? And there's the creed and the culture, right?
Right.
It's
And in some levels, the creed was what allowed there not to be 13 countries
yeah,
after the
yeah,
Revolutionary War, right? Yeah.
absolutely. And so Rothman says. So this person says Rothman's right. It's not creedal. Quoting Rothman, if you are so worldly and astute that you can see the hideous hidden workings of the world, you're a member of an exclusive club. And once you get a taste of that comprehensive vision, a theory of everything that reveals to you the secret, seedy underbelly of society, it can become intoxicating. Those who are attracted to the psychological orientation are likely to find that its applications are limitless. And when they apply it to just about everything, they find out that just about everything is a problem. And then this person is saying that because I was making,
Can I just say that sounds like St. Paul?
yeah, or this
No,
this
or St. Augustine.
or this C.S. Lewis wrote this great essay called "The Inner Ring," right? Where
Right.
this is what everybody wants to. But I was saying that I think that that the difference for what we talked about before, like
Yeah.
liberals not liking the country and not being proud to be American. And my theory is that the reason why conservatives don't fluctuate, don't ever go lower than 90% on the proud of the country, is because their love of the country is more cultural than creedal, and the left is more creedal than cultural, right? So it's aspirate. Now, it's the left's understanding of the creed. Certainly, I do see that, but that's why. So
Yeah,
what
well,
I
that's
what I,
what. Well, but that's the logic of the Confederacy.
yeah, and
Yeah, I
I
mean, at least for some of them, I'm going to die for Virginia. Right?
and
Yeah.
the problem, yeah, exactly, right.
Right.
I'm gonna die
Yeah.
for the land, right? And this
The
is
land.
JD Vance is quite explicit about this, right? I mean,
Well,
in
that's
fact, the
why.
commentary guy said they'd really like to hear JD Vance when he runs for president actually come out and make more of a creedal speech. Even for the commentary guys, JD Vance is too much of a sort of blood and soil
He's a
culture
pagan.
guy.
It's pagan. Yeah, it's a
Paganism,
pagan.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was saying though, the problem to these friends, I was saying the problem with Rothman's argument is that the left's numbers fluctuate, right? Like so when the left is winning, the numbers do go up. So if it was just addicted to criticism, right? Then the
Right.
numbers would perennially be low, right?
Right.
They wouldn't always they wouldn't fly. Now you can say it's partisan, that's fine. But again, I think the left's love, and this is where my theory comes in. I think the left's love is when it sees America as sufficiently ideologically pure or getting closer to purity.
Well,
And
but
so that
that's
you see
that.
Michelle
that
Obama saying, when
yeah.
Obama was nominated for the first time, I'm proud of my country.
But that's Ronald Reagan as well. I mean, there's a sense where I mean, there's a sense where, um, like American exceptionalism is a creedal.
It's creedal, right, right.
Yeah,
And
and
love it or leave it is cultural, right? I mean, love it or leave
right,
it
right, right. Yeah,
is the sort of thing. And look, I mean, there is a sort of innate. Oh gosh, there was this quote from George Orwell or something. He said that I think it was Orwell said something like, "The love of country is maybe the only organic emotion I have." So there is something about a kinship, right? Like that we just naturally have to affinity to tribe.
the tribe
And
or
so
land or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
land,
yeah,
tribe, culture, and some of that is, I mean, there's a dialectic, especially in America, between the creed and the culture. And I think
uh,
America is more
yeah,
creedal than most modern nation states,
yeah.
largely
Now,
because you
yeah,
could you could be American on Mars, right? We could take the Constitution, we could take the Declaration of Independence, we could take the founding documents and set up the system, which we so identify with the system more
right.
than any other. I mean, I don't meet people from Italy or England or other industrialized nations to just talk about the system the way we do.
Right. I do think this kind of most of this is based on myths and lies we tell ourselves to create culture. I mean, they're really what's Italian culture? I mean, there's a sense where it's a 19th century fiction. What was German? What was German? That was a 19th century fiction that became a 20th century horror story. So I think there's something. I mean, I think there's something about. I mean, I think as a Christian, it's really, really difficult if you're going to actually take your faith seriously to ever be all in on a cultural love for a particular country. I just think because I think we have different allegiances. Now,
Yeah, this is where Andrew Wall says in his famous
yeah,
essay. The title's now escaping me, but I'm sure we've talked about it on this. I know we've talked about it on the podcast, but he says the gospel is both the indigenizing principle and the pilgrim principle, right? It's
right,
both the
right.
you're accepted 100% unconditionally for who you are, you, your culture, your clan, your people, and also you're called to a kingdom, a journey, a citizenship that's transformational. And Walls would say it's not 50-50, it's 100-100, right? That
Well,
these are both
well,
equal
well,
words that
right,
are
and I
spoken.
and I think Christian realism, as you and I've said, sometimes requires you to uh, put yourself in a compromised position for a greater good. In other words, I mean, I
It's
think there's
Christian realism that doesn't want me have that wants me not having you do vacation Bible school. I'm a realist. I want you slowing down. Christian realism, Bill. Be realistic about your energy level,
my
your
energy
health.
level's good.
Well,
Y-
it's too
It's
high.
a
It's too
it's too
high.
my energy
It's
levels.
too high. This is how people take heart attacks. Even in
People
Vermont,
people don't take
have
you
heart
take
attacks. I don't
yours
know.
bad. Yours bad as my wife the other day who said she was excited because we're going to lay concrete. I go, honey,
Right, like pipe, like you're
we
laying
don't
pipe.
lay concrete. But at any rate, so as I take a heart attack here, I'm sorry.
The concrete laying Jew in Vermont. That's a great image.
Well, she's trying to make sure I don't take a heart attack, so she's
Yeah, you
helping.
don't want to take a heart attack.
No, I do think there's a sense where, um, you know, the American creed, the American ideals that appeal, that the ones that are coherent with my understanding of the Christian faith, um, and the ones that were shaped. I mean, this is the thing that's just so why I have a kind of a double sorrow right now. I mean, as an American, I've never been, part of it because I know and read history. It's hard to just lie to yourself about a lot of things about our history. But every country has that, right? And
Yeah, you
it,
have to. You need a mythos to be a people,
right,
right?
and and,
You
and
need a
you also
national
and
myth.
you also need to be, in other words, you're, every human institution is going to have human failings and do horrible things. It's when you start believing the myths, that's part of the problem. When your realism turns into a kind of false idealism, I think that's not only problematic, that's idolatrous.
Yeah, you have to. That's interesting, right? Because you have to have a myth, but you can't. You have to hold it self-critically, right? I mean, that's because I do
Yeah.
think. I will say this. I do think that the liberal myth is now, and this is why this is depressing, right? I mean, it's sort of something like we're all going to die. The world's going to end because of climate change, and there's nothing we can do about it. And we probably deserve it because of systemic racism. I mean,
And
there
that's
is something
yeah,
dark to that.
there's a few people that said no.
Yeah.
But you sound like one of those. You sound like one of those thoughtless Republicans
No, but
stereotyping
I
people.
look. That is look. I'm not. I'm just saying. There's people on the left
Mhm.
that's the narrative, right?
Well,
That
and I grew up with
it's a
yeah.
dark narrative, right? It's
And I grew up in a kind of Christianity that was you know just counting the days down till the tribulation, right? And there was a dark historical kind of I mean that apocalyptic thing was pretty dark as well. But I do think, yeah, and I think there's all kinds of, I mean, you and I talked about this before. The trouble with the left, it doesn't have a metaphysics to undergird its idealism.
yeah, it's not metaphysical. I think it has a tough time telling stories that are
Right.
there. I mean, this guy had on Give and Take a week or two ago. Bill Duraswitz, who wrote this great essay, and he just talks about the fatigue of the left, and where how in the '60s all the life force was with the left, right? I mean, in the culture. I mean, it just
Yeah.
art, ideas, the civil rights movement. It was just the energy was there, right? And I think
But
it,
what you
it
have now with with Trumpism, you have all the hedonism. You have all the hedonism of the '60s, rationalized, justified, and codified, and probably working for them. Uh, but you have the greed is greed is good of the predatory capitalism of the 80s. So I mean, the Puritan ideal, the Calvinistic work ethic,
But
which I
what's
think,
going to happen when these people, there's this great political cartoon I saw today. It was Trump with this coddling up to this fat cat billionaire, looked like the guy from Monopoly, right? And then there's this poor white guy sort of wheeling up to Trump. He looks like he's half dead with a little IV bag, pushing it. And Trump turns to the old guy and says, "Don't worry, we could still all hate trans people together."
yeah, well, right,
But because that's it, right? I mean, because this is your Bannonites. I mean, Bannon was like, has publicly said, "Wait, our people are on Medicaid." I mean, this is,
well, right,
as
yeah,
as poor people. I mean, as poor people, it's interesting this cultural alignment we have shifting, right? Because rich people are becoming Democrat now more, because of education. So you have a more affluent Democratic Party, and you have poor whites becoming Republican, and they're like, "Wait, I want to be Republican, but I want healthcare. I want Medicaid." So you
right,
have to,
and
so
and
these
they want to
things
be
shift, right?
and they want their Diet Coke too.
Yeah, and they went to. And by the way, Coke Zero for me. RFK, suck it. Hear that, everybody? This is the sound of
And
my
right,
Coke Zero, fully carbonated.
and Jello will never be the same. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
this is I think it's a really interesting. Have you started reading the Halik book yet about his kind of
No,
history
I
of
haven't gotten
Christianity?
it in the mail yet.
Yeah, but I think there's a sense where part of what we try to do here uh, is try to put a little framework around what's happening. Try to understand, both the people who might, because I'm not sure who's like me anymore. I was going to say are like-minded ideological people, but it might just be you and me right now.
No, that's it. That's it. It's
But
a decreasing tribe.
the decreasing tribe,
Talk about the inner ring.
the inner ring, right? But you know what
Right
I do?
here.
But I find I do, I sat beside this person I didn't know last night at a 4th of July celebration at the synagogue, which that's that could be another story. But one of the things,
Wow.
yeah, I know. But one of the things that I was on my best behavior, by the way. But one of the things the person next to me said, it looks to me, this very thoughtful uh, guy who I'd never talked to before, who's just up here for a month, and he just says, it seems to me that I see what's happening in Judaism. You know, people are not interested anymore. It looks like same things happening in churches and things like that. And but I do what I find up here in maybe the least church state in the country. And part of this reshifting is that people who thought they had answers or had a certain view of this is where the people who believed in progress, and there's still people up here who are saying that they believe the arc of justice, that, but I'm saying, well, good for you. But there's a searching, right? I think, there's a sense whenever you feel like you're culturally and in on top, there's not a lot of, winning doesn't teach you much. From those of us who played sports or coached sports, you don't learn much from winning. You should enjoy winning. Um, but winning has more to teach you. Uh, Winning can teach you how to lose really easily. And I think it's hard for
Well, Bill,
people.
Trump has said we can't stop winning, and so we're certainly not learning anything with Trump. We're
Right.
winning all the time.
Well, yeah, winning, but yeah, I mean he's winning, but I'm pretty sure the American people are not. And the world, neither is the world. So I think one of the things that if I think this is not a great opportunity to rethink. I mean, you and I've talked a lot. I think the reason there were good reasons for mainline Protestantism to decline, and so I think
The,
there are
the,
good.
the, the theme of Jack Haybury's book, Swimming with the Sharks, which is recently reviewed in a publication by Austin Seminary.
And maybe an upcoming give and take interview.
It's possible. It's very possible.
But so I do think there's a sense
There's
where
nothing more relevant than semi-retired Presbyterians.
see, that's right. You keep trying to semi-retire me. I don't want to be. I don't want to be.
But
I
you're
don't
not
wanna,
Presbyterian, so it's fine.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. I'm more. Well, I'm a. Yeah. Anyway, so I do think there's a sense where there's an opportunity to learn here. I think there's an obligation. Um, as a Christian, there's an obligation for me to care for people that are hurting, to share the good news, to offer mercy and grace, to continue to grow in love of God and love of neighbor. But at the
Share
same
the good news, like the one Republican Congresswoman said. Well, none of us lives forever. Remember who said
true,
that? It's Joni. Was that Joni Ernst?
the senator from
town hall. They were complaining about the Medicaid cuts. We're not going to live forever anyway. There's the good news.
Well, and it looks like one of the explicit goals of this administration is to thin the herd. So they're
look, population, overpopulation. The left,
right.
So overpopulation is a problem. Trump's answering it. Just thin the herd, baby.
I don't know how you're both pro-life and pro-eugenics at the same time, but that seems to be what's going on, right?
It's very complicated. It's called building a coalition, Bill. It's called coalition building.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we will continue to air our grievances, and
I'm sure they'll be continued.
Well, it was kind of fun because now, see, I play an angry guy on the show. I'm not really an angry guy. And
I was angry last night when
it was fun.
I was so frustrated.
If I hadn't been half asleep, maybe we would have recorded. Although maybe it's probably good.
I know.
Maybe it's good we didn't. But anyway, all right, folks, be well out there.
And the beat goes on.